Welcome to the Realm Roundtable, a podcast about all things Realm Royale. I'm your host, the Monty Mole, and tonight we're joined by Hodsic. He's a popular streamer in the Realm Royale community, as well as a popular streamer in the Apex community. He's participated in the 10Ks, and he's been a successful Apex streamer since that game has come out, seeing some notoriety from people such as King Richard, getting a chance to play in a lot of their scrims and their league games and finding a lot of success there. So we're excited to have him here. He also was thank you for the reminder, he also was the 39 world record kill leader for a while. So that was pretty cool too. So dude, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this. I still love both games. I basically full-time Apex, but that's more of a hopefully career choice. But no, I mean, I'm excited to be here. I still do like both games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like so many people in this community, and that's why we're doing this podcast, is I feel like so many people in this community, it's a little clickbaity, like, to be honest, because we're sort of like pitting two games against each other as if like you have to actually choose one game. When in reality, you really don't have to choose one game. Like, you can play both games and enjoy both games. But for the sake of just discussion and talking about, battle royales and the genre in general, it's kind of fun just to play this, draw this like false dichotomy between the two games as if you can only choose one because they're so different and they are honestly offer so much, to the people who play them in different ways. So like tonight, that's really what we're going to be talking about on the show tonight, is really just like what the difference is between Apex Legends. Like, what is A game getting right? What is, B game getting wrong? Like, what should each of the game developers learn from each other? And, like, if one had to choose, like, why would you choose that one? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just a kind of a cool discussion just to talk about because, yeah. So we'll just like jump right into it because like, okay, like I'm going to like kind of poke you a little bit here and play devil's advocate tonight some, and I'm sure you'll be fine.
Absolutely.
You can take it.
Yeah.
So, but everyone in the chat, just remember, like, everyone has like passionate opinions about games, but try and keep it nice. Like, I don't want people to be like in arguments or anything, because I have seen people like just lose their mind over stuff like this, which is insane. So like, we're just going to be talking about the two games.
A lot of people love to just bleed one game.
I know, like
it is something I talk about a lot on my stream, actually, because obviously my stream blew up, relatively speaking, in Realm.
Yeah. And like, why do you think that is? Like, I mean, I've played a lot of different games and I tend to main one game. I mained World of Warcraft for like 5-6 years. And then I started playing a lot of League of Legends and played that for a long time. And then I did like a bunch of variety of games. I did some speed running in Super Mario World and did like a lot of different stuff. So it's like, why do you think people get so hung up? Like, it's a game, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, Why do you think people are all like, you're cheating like on a community if you play another game? Like, what is that? Like, that's insane, right?
There's basically two types of people that play a game like Realm. There's the people that play it because they like it, and there's people that play it not solely for that reason, but a lot of the reasons they'll choose Realm over, say, Fortnite, PUBG, or Apex, aside from the gameplay differences, because the games are completely different, and there's obviously reasons why you'd like any of those other games. But I've seen a lot of it, and a lot of the reasons, some people are too stubborn to even try Apex, just because there's a lot of hype surrounding it, and I will never understand that point. I think Realm is a very like niche underground game, and some people have played it since the start, myself included, and I think a lot of people almost take pride in the fact that not a lot of people play the games, because there's two types of people that are fine with hype and like hyping things up and playing things like that, and I'm sure we all have friends in our own circles that are like, so like, oh, I don't want to try that because everyone else is playing it, I don't want to listen to that music because everybody else listens to it. And Apex is getting a lot of that from the Realm community as well. In fact, I had a couple of tweets about it. I think people are they like how kind of tight-knit the Realm community is.
Yeah. Because
it is very tight-knit, and it's very welcoming to new people.
Yeah.
But it's also very tight-knit, and I think people take pride in how small it is, and they want to see the game succeed because it's kind of their game. And that's fine, but I personally never understand that point. It's a video game at the end of the day. You can play more than one game.
Yeah.
Like, you won't be it's not going to kill you.
Well,
you're allowed to like different games.
and what's funny about this is I feel like the reason that there was all this uproar was because Realm was like picking up steam, right? And like you said, like Realm is like this very niche game, and we have like a very niche community, and it has like a culture that kind of goes with it. And if you like don't fit into that culture, like people are not afraid to just be like, kind of call you out on it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's a normal. Sorry to cut you there.
No, you're good.
It's a normal human being like response.
Yeah,
like that, right? Like the Realm community isn't some sort of like it's a great place. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trash talking it, but it is a community filled with lots of humans, and this is sort of a natural response that humans have to something different that kind of like threatens the community a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's Realm Group isn't somehow independent of that.
Yeah. Well, and what was funny was and this is the reason why I think there was initial kickback, is it was like everyone, at least the PC community and the competitive community as a whole, was playing Realm Royale. There was no other game at the moment that was like really competing with it, to be honest. Like people were kind of tired of Blackout. Like people weren't playing PUBG, like they had the people who preferred those games were playing those games. I think there's a little crossover with Fortnite, but not really a ton. Like in terms of in the BR genre, like Realm Royale was picking up a lot of steam. They were seeing some larger players, stream it. They were seeing a lot of like original OG players come back to the game that, had abandoned it to try it again. Like they were peaking on Steam. They were getting like up to 5,000 people watching on Twitch, which was, a lot for, Realm Royale. That was like some of the more like, higher viewership they've seen on Twitch. So like there was this kind of like, momentum that was building, and then Apex dropped and literally like nothing. Like it went from like scrims every night, and then and to be fair, like that wasn't completely Apex's fault. Like a lot of the reason was also that Hi-Rez ended up pulling the plug on the tournament, probably for good reason. But then all of a sudden the competitive player base was like, I'm going to jump on this new game. This game is hype. This game is amazing. It's really popular. It hit 1 million players in like 24 hours or something like that. 8 million? Okay. So
no, in 8 hours.
Oh, in 8 hours. Like that's like insane. Like that's insane. So, here's this other BR that dropped, and it just all of a sudden skyrocketed. So, right. There's kind of like this little bit of animosity where it was like the Realm community had been waiting a long time for this kind of steam, and then all of a sudden it just was like and started to tank again. So, I think maybe some of that might explain a little bit the context behind why all of a sudden there's this like, within the Realm community, this like, whoa, where'd everybody go? Why is everyone hating on Realm? Like it was doing so well, everyone was enjoying it. Now everyone's just playing this other game, Apex, So, but again, that's just the context. Like that doesn't excuse or make right this irrational behavior of thinking that somehow you can't play both games. You know what I mean? Right. So anyway, I don't know, like that's just like the context, and we're just kind of laying the ground, like, like the groundwork for what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is like what are the differences between the two games? Like what is the one game getting right? What is the other game getting right? Like what are they both getting wrong? Maybe what would we like to see in a battle royale that both can improve on, as well as maybe what they can learn from each other. Right. So, and to be fair, like you kind of meme on that a little bit in your channel too, right? Like, I don't want to call you toxic Hodsic, but there's also like a little bit of an underlying, and I understand it and think it's hilarious. And I love Realm Royale. I'm obviously doing a Realm podcast. Yeah. So like, I love the game, but I've also been playing Apex because I'm like, there's gotta be something here if it has that kind of popularity. So,
I mean, it's the biggest launch in video game history. 1 week, it had 25 million unique accounts.
That's nuts.
That's the biggest launch in history.
And listen, like legitimately, the game is amazing, but I also think that the reason that it's doing as well as it is simply because the fact that there was nothing else to play, and everyone was like, there's nothing. World of Warcraft has been doing terrible because this latest.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, dude, the latest patch of World of Warcraft has been awful. People are abandoning that. They tried to pick it up. They were like, I want it to be good, and it just wasn't. So the hardcore raiding community in that was like looking for games to play. Blackout was getting stale. PUBG has been stale. Fortnite is probably starting to dwindle a little bit, in the competitive scene at least. Like there was nothing to play. So everyone was trying out Realm again because they're like, I need something to play. And then Apex like just hit the ground and it just like skyrocketed because it's such a good game. Like it is such a good game.
They did. I know they were very meticulous. The devs were in terms of how they released the game. But I don't think they realized just how lucky they were. No, you hit it like right on the head. There was like nothing to play. If you watch a lot of the big streamers, you could tell they were flopping games every single day, playing something different because there was just nothing to play. People were getting bored of everything that's out there. A lot of people I don't play Fortnite very much actually, like at all.
I've actually never played it, to be honest.
I do. I played like 20 hours when it first came out, and I was like, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But I still respect it for what it's. I mean, it's put like gaming way more on the radar than it ever was. It's done a lot for like the industry. It's bringing a lot of new people to Twitch. It's done a lot of good stuff, despite whether or not you like it or not.
Yeah.
But one thing I think from a lot of the complaints I see about Fortnite, because I do try to see like why are people starting to get away from this game? It's still going to be big, and it's still going to be as alive as it is for a long time. I don't think Apex is going to kill Fortnite.
Yeah.
That game's an anomaly. But I think the reason is I see a lot of people at least complaining that like the skill gap, sort of similar to Realm, the skill gap is sort of starting to shrink.
Yeah.
The devs keep throwing out kind of like casual, heavy weapons and equipment and stuff like that. Like obviously the game's all about building. I believe like there's one item that you literally throw like a grenade at. It's a boombox, and it destroys basically all buildings in a very wide radius.
Yeah.
And
a boombox.
Obviously, pro players are going to be like, "What the hell?" Like, that means literally anyone can just throw that at me, and maybe I take fall damage, and it's just a nightmare. But no, I mean, you hit it perfectly. Things were boring. Hell, even on my stream. I mean, I tend to brand myself as a variety streamer. I'm a competitive player at heart. I love to compete in things, but man, when I'm bored, I'll be just playing any freaking game that I decide to play that day. I played WoW. I quit because this current expansion was bad. Played a lot of Rainbow Six, was playing a lot of Realm. Literally every day before Apex came out was a different game on my stream. Hell, I even got a Switch. I was about to start streaming Switch games.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
sorry, I just wanted to finish this point.
Yeah.
I think the big thing that Apex did right was they kept it secret, not only from EA, but they did it, but from the public as well. I think like the devs, like those devs aren't, if you're a AAA developer, most of the time, like the actual people that work on the game, not the people that like brand and market the game and stuff like that. Most of the time, I mean, those guys are smart, right? Like they're the top. They are. If we've seen anything from these early access games, it's proof that AAA developers are freaking talented at what they do.
Yeah,
they can make a good game if they really all put their hearts into it. So I think one of the biggest things they did right was they kept EA out of it, but they also did not tell anybody about it. Like it was such a well-kept secret. I think nobody knew about it until like 3 days before release. It was rumored.
Yeah,
and that's big because let's be real. If any of us playing Realm a couple months ago heard that EA was making a Battle Royale, I still would have tried it because I like to try everything. Yeah. But I wouldn't have been hyped for it. I would have been like, oh, what's the catch here?
Yeah. Especially because it's EA, right?
It would have been a lot. Yeah, it would have been a lot of bad press. And I think the best way to release anything these days, because of how vast the internet is and opinion spreads so like wildfire, I think the best thing you can possibly do is try to keep whatever you're working on, whether it's like games or music, anything, just drop it on a lot of people. Pay streamers to play it because, you definitely want them to play it, right? You want them to advertise.
Yeah.
But drop it without any notion of it coming out, because then because nobody can form already a negative connotation behind it, right?
Exactly.
You have to play it, you have to try it, and you have to form your own opinion because you can't have any preconceived notions going in.
Yeah.
So they did it. I mean, they came in right at the right time. They made it free to play. They did all the things right. And that's why it's blown up. And
okay, so like I think you hit on a couple like really big points here too, is because you said, Respawn is a AAA developer. They know what they're doing. Okay. Right. So if we're going to compare and contrast, like Apex's release versus Realm Royale, like it's kind of an unfair comparison because Respawn has probably like 200 people. I think I was like looking it up earlier. I think they have like 200 employees within their, company versus, Heroic Leap Games, which has like 50 maybe, you know. So like it's not it's kind of an unfair comparison to do that, but also like with with the understanding of like um the two contrasting views here of how to release a game, because you have Respawn and EA who, you know, kept this a secret and then they launched it, and they, in a sense, you kind of put all your eggs in one basket where it's like, if this is going to take off, it's going to take off quickly and do extremely well. Versus maybe maybe the contrasting view, which is high res, which is like a smaller developer has to do this extended long beta because they don't have the support necessarily to polish the game out, you know, quite like a AAA developer would. You know, not saying their games aren't quality, but I'm just saying the way that they approach their releases of their games, it's been in beta now. You know, it was in closed beta, and now it's in open beta, and they wanted it on console and all this stuff, you know, since June of last year. So we're going on almost a year, and you're seeing the contrast in the two perspectives here, where if you can release a fully polished game for console, for PC, for everything, and it be, you know, done well, then you're going to see a large success with it. And whereas Realm Royale, on the other hand, was released and maybe the developer and the publisher weren't quite ready for it, you know, the success that they saw with it. And so they had a bunch of bad impressions and kind of had to like scramble and start over from scratch, you know, like a lot of mistakes were made, etc. Right. So like those are the two contrasting views here on these battle royales and how they're approached. So I do want to call out high res a little bit, because I do feel like this year-long beta, and I've heard content creators say this, and I think it's total BS. It's sort of like saying like, and excusing the fact that it's like, this is a fully released game and this is still in beta. I don't think that's an acceptable stance, you know, like like I'm sorry, like I'm not trying to be hard on anybody, but to have a game in beta for a year is sort of just like a cover up. Like
let me I actually would like to touch up on this. It's within the public's eye, it's a fallacy. I hate seeing that argument. It's still in beta, it'll have time to fix itself. Which lends itself to another reason why Apex. I don't think Apex would have done anywhere near as well if it was early access like, you know, open beta or some shit. People are sick and tired of these unfinished games, and the reason developers do this, there's several reasons why. As a developer, it makes sense, sort of, to do early access, because it means you don't have to commit a full budget. Like, let's just say a game to complete costs $1 million. Most of the time, they're more than that. But just for simplicity's sake, let's say it costs for a full game to be released and not early access, open beta. Let's just say it costs $1 million. If you release it unfinished, early access, say you only need $400,000 to do that. That automatic, like, it's kind of like we're not sure if this is going to do that well. So this is an easy way to like see if people will buy into it and maybe they like it and we can make something of it. Right? Yeah.
Before they invest into the game, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another reason actually why they do this is, from what I've seen and researched, apparently on consoles, if your game is not if it's not in like open beta or early access, it's incredibly hard to patch. Or there's something that has to do with the patching of the actual game. So if you have a fully released game and you want to release a big patch for it, it's a lengthy process within the console scene. So a lot of games brand themselves open beta and early access, and they just stay there.
Yeah.
So they can push patches out like it's no problem, because all the like Sony, Xbox, Nintendo. Okay. I don't think Nintendo even allows early access games on their store.
No, they don't.
They don't want to put games on their store that are complete.
Yeah.
But not really, and they're buggy and they don't work. That looks bad on them too.
Yeah.
So that's why they do that. So that's why a lot of games sit in this extended early access open beta. It's complete BS, to be honest.
Yeah.
And again, that's another reason why Apex kind of like capitalized on that. It is a fully finished game.
Yeah.
It's done. Like, so many people were still to this day, I tell them my stream all the time, like, no, this isn't early access. Like, the game's done. It's here. All they have to do is add content now.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I hate seeing, that argument of like when people try to defend Realm. It's a cop out, more or less. From a business standpoint, it makes sense.
It is.
It completely makes sense.
No, that's where it's like, I want to call a spade, because it's like, and I haven't heard Hi-Rez say this. So like, I don't think Hi-Rez is saying this. I think the content creators on behalf of the game are saying this. that they're like, well, it's an open beta, it's an unfinished game yet, which is kind of like politically correct, or like sort of like trying to be politically correct to be like, well, it's an open beta. Okay, like it's maybe I will say maybe that's the only way that small developers can actually get a game out and continue to work on it. Maybe
Yes.
I don't know, like for them to be like a 50 person team, developer, for them to actually continue to work on this game and find it, and to like for it to actually function, as a small developer company, it's like maybe you have to do that. I don't know.
For some developers, yeah. I don't think I could be. I mean, I don't know the specifics, but I don't think Hi-Rez is that small of a company where they had to do that. If it was, to my understanding, when Realm released, they had several hundred people on the team working on Realm. They added more. I remember they added more after the first week, after it blew up in popularity. They even added. I remember they tweeted about it. They hired like 100 some more people for the team.
Yeah.
So that's what gave me hope. Like, all right, like I was like, okay, I know this is early access, but
Yeah.
alpha. But I was like, maybe there's some promise to this.
Yeah.
And whereas I thought it was like, even through like the lack of polish and bugs, like it was obvious, like I still played the hell out of it. I love the game. It was when you have that much bad like polish or lack of polish, and then bad patches on top of that, it's just not going to do well for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will not bode well.
Now, to their credit, I feel like they have done a good job of recovering, especially within the last like 5-6 months, in particular. I would say since July, that's kind of as long as I've been in the scene, at least. July, early August, they've started to really make a lot of good changes. A lot of that started within the company as well. Within 2019, they made a lot of internal changes. So, like, I still have very high hopes for Realm, and still want to make the case for Realm Royale. So I do kind of want to move on here. We're talking a lot about groundwork, the differences in releases here for Apex versus Realm Royale, but I want to get more into the discussion of like what people are looking for in the BR. Like I want to talk a little bit about like what the difference is between the two games. Because when I first saw Apex, like initially when I first tried it, I did not like it at all. Like the first 5-6 games, and I didn't come from a Blackout, I didn't come from PUBG, so I didn't come from those two game experiences where like are essentially what someone could argue as a military style BR. So I didn't come from those two games, and I didn't really understand a lot until I started watching some of the gameplay about how campy it was, like the differences in gameplay versus Realm Royale, which felt more almost like an MMO, as some have coined it, like an ability-based battle royale, So with that said, like in the Royale genre, Apex is doing something really well that I think Realm has capitalized on a little bit and maybe laid the groundwork for, is this idea that it's like it's not fun to play these games where you just get weapons and camp. Like it's fun to go out and fight. Like that's what players want to experience. That's what's fun to watch. So like there's the speed of play element that is done extremely well in Apex, and it's just phenomenal, and it was done very well in Realm Royale as well. So I mean, I don't know. Do you have anything like that you want to add to that in terms of like speed of play, like where that's headed?
Yeah. So one reason I think Apex does. So I played a lot of PUBG as well. And I played PUBG for a very similar reason that I played Realm, which was okay. I like it's early access. Yeah. I like the base groundwork. I'd like to see where this can go. I think I have more hours in PUBG actually than Realm, or maybe Realm overtook it. But I stopped playing PUBG for the gunplay felt great in PUBG. But the movement was insanely clunky, like I joke on my stream all the time. There's a meme about it. I say the game feels like you're dipped in molasses when you play it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I absolutely love about Apex is its movement is fluid. It's fast. You can outplay a lot through just your base movement. Realm movement is Realm's not meant to be like a parkour heavy game or anything like that. I think Realm's movement is fine. One thing I still miss about Realm is the mounts, to be honest.
Yeah.
I find myself sometimes like getting a sniper shot on somebody in Apex and then in muscle memory, like instinctively hitting my mount key.
Yeah.
Like to try to push him. I love that about Realm. I thought that was a genius idea. So I think Realm's movement is fine. But I think the fluidity I think one of the reasons people really like Apex is just how much crazy stuff you can do.
Yeah.
With the parkour, it feels really good. It flows really well. You can make insane pushes, get really cool angles. that people don't expect, and I think that all kind of lends itself to just really fun gameplay. I think people underrate how like important movement is in the game, and I think PUBG is a great example of it.
Yeah. Well, and Realm early days was really bad, right? Like in terms of movement. Like I remember watching Dr. Disrespect try out the game, and it was literally like second day release, and it was rough looking, you know. So they've come a long way since the early game. We're talking about like Realm in its current state, where they've really added a lot of polish to this game if you look at it versus the beginning. So
no, they have.
Yeah.
There are certainly things I think they can still do that would feel really good. But I don't know if you want to save that for a later one, because I'm thinking like I was going to go into like the talent system, but I don't know if you want to save that for later.
We'll talk about that's next RNG, right? I assume that you have some things to add. I've heard your perspective on this, and I actually agree with you on this one. And I think that's interesting. Like I agree with you on a lot of the stuff that I've heard you say, you know, about like Realm Royale in its current state for the competitive scene in general with RNG and how that works, you know, in game and for BRs and for the competitive scene in general, which is an interesting topic because I think these are two very stark contrasting views of something that Realm could learn from Apex about how to develop a competitive scene and if that's important for a game. So yeah, go ahead. Like jump into the talents and jump into runes. So, I know you have a lot to say with that.
With what you just said about the competitive thing, and I know you prefaced it earlier saying what do we think is going to happen for the roadmap down the line with Realm. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I've been saying it recently. I saw it coming for a long time, but I only recently, like, I'm 100% like behind this opinion. I think Realm is going full-blown casual, and there's nothing wrong with that. From a business standpoint, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think they've given up on a professional scene a long time ago, and I think that was evident with. I had hopes for maybe one more tournament. I still think they will do like one more tournament just to pick the game up when they feel like it's ready.
Yeah.
But I don't see a long-term pro scene in the game. I don't think they're gearing for it. Like every change they've made since the big gutting of all of the, actually since pretty much release, has been catering to casual players, lowering the skill gap increasingly every single time, and they do that as well. With the rune talents, or the runes in the talent system. I was very weary when I heard about both of them, and then when I played them and messed around with it, I still don't like it. And the reason is, I think in a battle royale, in like a normal game like Paladins, I know they have a similar like system with Paladins, like you pick your character and you can have like a certain loadout that you do. That's fine. I think that's okay in a world where Paladins, in a world where you're playing one game and you can die many times and you can come back and like respawn and keep going, try to win. The problem I have with the rune system and the talent system in Realm, again, if you're in my stream, you've probably heard me say this way too many times, but it dabbles so much. Every fight, there's so much ambiguity behind the fights. The runes are too game changing, way too game changing. I can list, I think there's 4 runes that really determine a fight, and you almost never know if your enemy has them until it's too late. And that's bad design for a battle royale. Nobody wants to play for 20 minutes, maybe have a good game, like a 10-kill game. For most people, they get really excited about that, whatever that means to you. Nobody wants to play that long in a game and then died and not really know why they died.
Yeah.
I just put, like, normally it takes, if my memory serves me correct, from someone that's full armor, about 7 slug shots without any headshots, if my memory serves me right, to kill somebody. Fully, with no headshots. No, somebody who's been playing the game for hundreds of hours, they don't want to die to somebody after putting 10 slug shots in them and being like, why the hell did that guy not die?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Like, I did more damage. And then they're like, oh, he had the lifesteal rune. That feels bad. Even from a professional standpoint, 100% feels really bad. From a casual standpoint, that feels bad. Like, I understand runes feel empowering for the player using them. Like, you feel really freaking strong, and that's a good feeling. But it's frustrating for the other people that die. Like, you need to find a good balance there.
Yeah.
Like the reload rune, armor repair rune, which I know is getting nerfed, but it's still, I read the nerf. It's not that good. It needs to be just taken out of the game, to be honest.
Yeah.
Lifesteal is a big one. And like the damage runes, you never know until it's, especially the damage runes. There's absolutely no indicator to know until you basically are just screwed that you died, that like you can even fight back. And from a professional standpoint, you want to, anytime you want to do a professional scene in anything, you need to minimize the amount of RNG in games. And that's why people loved Realm in the beginning. It was the one battle royale that existed at the time with minimal RNG in it. There's still a little bit. You know, you land at the house next to somebody in Trinity and they get a better gun. That's unlucky. But it minimized RNG so much through the Forge, and it incentivized killing. It was such a great formula, but now that formula has literally flopped. They don't incentivize killing. In fact, it's better that you don't take fights in Realm anymore. And there's actually the Forge is the epitome of RNG now, even though they're working to make it better, which is a good idea.
Yeah.
But it's so silly that your game could be won or lost depending on getting a purple or a legendary weapon or rune, or at this point, runes.
Yeah.
Like and the talent system just adds to that as well. The talent system, obviously, like when I heard about the talent system, everyone was excited for it, but I literally was so cautious about it. I was like, it's going to go one of two ways. Either the talent system won't be designed properly and everything will have every class will have or most classes will have one meta build that everybody runs. And then at that point, I'm like, why even have the talent system?
Yeah.
That's just like content for the sake of content instead of actual good game design. And then, or everything will be kind of decent. And then that just adds to the ambiguity in fights. Like, oh, you died to that guy, but you have no idea what talents he was running until it was too late. Oh, that hunter had exaction. Well, I figured that out after I lost 60% of my health, right? Like,
sure.
And that does not feel good in a game where you can spend up to 20, 25 minutes and you only have one life.
Yeah.
It's not good design. I think they can still make the talent system better, but they need a lot more visual updates to that. If you have a damage buff from what is it? I think it was dodge rolling.
Yeah, which is exaction. Buff, yeah.
Right. If you have that damage buff, there needs to be a visual indicator for that. People need to see, oh, he just rolled and he's glowing red. He's going to screw my day up, right?
Yeah.
There needs to be a lot more indicators in game so you can have the immediate visual feedback to see what's going on. What talents are they running? Because I don't like ambiguity in games. There is a little bit in Apex. I know Mouse and I were arguing this the other day.
Yeah.
Apex isn't perfect, but it's damn near good. And it's but most of the time you don't have that feeling like I have no idea why I just died. And me having hundreds of hours in Realm, I still have that feeling.
Yeah.
And I played enough to know, or did play it enough to know every possible thing people can do, but sometimes I'm still I'll engage in a 1v1 and I'll be like, oh, he had lifesteal. I literally did more damage to him, but he had lifesteal.
Yeah.
So he's surrounded. And that feels bad from both professional and casual players.
Yeah. I agree with you on many of these points. I'm gonna poke back just a little bit, okay?
No, go for it.
Okay, so I agree with you on the rune perspective. I would say I sort of agree with you on the talent perspective, particularly with the warrior and hard CC. I think at a competitive level, at that point, you should know, he dodge rolled, he has dodge roll, he's going to have exaction. You know what I mean? I agree with the point that it's they need a visual indicator. I like that. I think that's really good. But I want to say, I think there's a level there where runes are really the main offender in this discussion.
Yeah. No, for sure. I dislike to make it clear. I dislike the rune system way more than the talent system. I think the rune system, personally, I think just needs to go.
But and I'm with you on that. I think if they're going to keep runes, that it shouldn't be. They're just way overpowered. And I've ranted about this before on the podcast about runes and armor pots are just ridiculous. The state of runes and armor pots are ridiculous. So I think in terms of weapon RNG, I actually prefer Realm's weapon RNG to Apex's weapon RNG. Mm-hmm. And let me kind of preface this a little bit with the reason why is because within the Forge system, there is a little bit of RNG, but once you hit max level, you can essentially pick which weapons you want off of your first Forge. So I can literally get my exact loadout that I want from a first Forge if I hold, say I've dropped Jade and I hold Jade and I get, 3 kills, I can get a full Forge off and have almost my finished loadout for endgame. Now, it doesn't mean that I get legendaries, and it doesn't mean, maybe I get all epic weapons instead of legendary weapons. But I think that they have lessened the gap from purple and legendary differences in this game since the beginning. I think what is the offset there is the runes. So the heavy RNG comes from the runes, in my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. The talent system does do that. So here's why, again, I think the talent system is just content for the sake of content. Because I agree. I was happy to hear that you can guarantee forges through the talent system, and that's great. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's a step in the right direction. But my counter argument to that is, why does that functionality not just exist within the game rather than creating this ambiguous talent system tree? Where, like, yes, I agree. If somebody rolls at a high level, you should know they probably have exaction. You can probably deduce that. But there are just some things where, like, if you're in, like, say you're in a squad game, say we're doing squad pro games. If someone shoots at you with with one of those damage increasing buffs like toxicology or the like crossbow one or whatever, it's going to be too late for you to be able to react, and that's what I don't like about it. The damage increases, you're going to melt immediately if the team is coordinated enough. So what I was going to say though is the counter argument to being able to guarantee forges is why can't that used to exist in the game?
Yeah.
Why can't that just exist within the forge? Like, one thing I thought of just randomly was, like, why not just have, for example, you bring up the forge and under the weapon menu, why can't you just pick a particular, like, it shows all three of your weapons. Why can't you just choose which one you want at maybe a higher shard cost? Right? Like, maybe, like, what are weapons now? What is it, 90? Like, for like, well, like 120.
There's also a talent where you can get them for 70 if you want, but it's not really meta. Like, it's not the stronger option.
Right.
Like,
so like, why can't that functionality just exist within the game? Like,
at the forge.
For 120 shards, I can select to make a sniper instead of an heirloom. Like that. That's what my counter argument to that is. That should just be baked into the game. And that's why the talent system to me feels like content for the sake of content.
Sure.
Me and Mouse have gone back and forth on this. I don't think it feels. I understand. It's good in the sense for casuals, because casuals, people that don't like take games too seriously, they like progression. I mean, everyone likes progression, right? You want to feel like you're playing for something. I don't want to just label that as like a casuals thing.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to feel like you're playing for something. So one thing they did well in the recent major update was they added both the battle pass and the talent system. At least gave people worth for all of their games. You know, made it feel like you're playing for something, and that's good. That's good for player retention. I just don't think that the talent system was the way to do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I don't know. I don't know what you think about it, but I personally think that kind of stuff could be baked into the game and just make it feel less ambiguous that way.
Yeah.
That's just me though.
Yeah. I mean, I like the talent system. To me, the talent system isn't the offender as much as the runes and the armor pops are. Like, that's so frustrating.
Give me sorry. That I don't understand.
Okay.
And I've never gone to a stream. I've never gone to a Reddit post or a forum post where I read someone say, "I like that there's no armor in the game. It makes me really have to think about my choices." Nobody likes it. Like, why is it still like that?
Yeah. No, and I don't know, dude. Like, I have ranted about it very hard, and I think a lot of the diehard Realm fans are on board with you with that. You know, like, I can live with the talent system. I don't mind the talent system. Like, I can live with the forge set up the way it is. You know, if I get my purple longbow, you know, I'm okay with that. I don't really complain that much about, you know, running up against somebody, you know, with like legendary longbow. And actually, I will say this is the benefit with the current system is if I get weapon damage with a purple bow, it gives me a chance against somebody with a legendary longbow. So as a hunter, that's like how I approach it. But, you know, so it is different. It is very different. But, anyway, the whole point that I hear what you're saying, and I think what a lot of people say is RNG feels bad. Like, you want to know what people have, okay? Now, I do want to, like, just come back a little bit against Apex, because I feel like Apex has some very rough RNG elements to it as well. Like, there's a couple hard counters in this game. First of all, like, with Realm, the Realm community hates, and I'm on board with this, that fact that you can get legendaries out of a chest, or that you can get purples out of a chest upon drop, which is stupid. That's so dumb. Okay. Mm-hmm. But with Apex, it's the same thing, where if you drop somewhere and you have to fight someone with purple armor, so say they get like a purple chest, like like you're going to lose that fight like 8 times out of 10, unless you make an insane outplay. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like pro against pleb, sure, maybe you outplay there, but the RNG factor is still the same. I will also say the fact that Bangalore has smokes, and the hard counter against that is digital threats. Now, I'm glad there's only a few weapons that can use it, but at the same time, like it's not hard to find a wingman, you know, and late game. Like, what do you do with that? Everyone has digital threats. Like, why is that hard counter in that game? So I want to be fair to both sides, like, because there's RNG in both elements of the game, right? Is that a fair point?
I'm gonna be on. Yeah, no, it's a fair point.
Yeah.
I don't think digital threats as much, and I can touch on that in a bit. But I do agree that early game in Apex can feel really rough.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people complain about it, especially if you play solos with squads. If you play with friends, you can mitigate that a little bit. But I have played solos with like randoms. I enjoy doing it, but there are really frustrating times where I'm looting half of Skulltown, which is a very loot-rich place. It's labeled as mid-tier loot, but it has a lot of loot spawns.
Yeah.
And it feels bad that I looted for the first 30 seconds. I got like gray armor, got like an alternator, which is not very good, and maybe got a wingman. But it feels bad to lose to somebody who just found a peacekeeper or something and just one tapped you.
Yeah.
Like that feels awful. So
that is actually a really good point. And Mouse has brought that up to me before, like, or at least in his stream, he's like, how is it that you can get dropped and literally get one shot by a peacekeeper? Like, that's kind of stupid, right?
Yeah, Apex isn't perfect. There are things it can work on. So my hopes for it is that the peacekeeper definitely gets nerfed. Early game can be rough from an armor standpoint for sure. Sometimes ammo, like there's a lot of loot options in Apex, so I worry about them adding too many other loot options, as like too many new things, because then it'll dilute the early game pool, and then the early game might feel even inadvertently worse. And what I mean by that is like, there's knockdown shields that can spawn, which are fine.
Yeah.
But that's not what you want to find right away.
Yeah.
There's obviously like a lot of armor pieces, or a lot of bad guns. Sometimes there's just ammo spawns. Like there's a lot of possibilities within each loot spawn, which makes it feel sometimes like shit. It really is just RNG in the beginning. And it makes you feel like you have to play extremely safe sometimes. So like the early game, I think needs a little bit of work, for sure. And it could be honestly, even at this, it could be. I mean, you can make a lot out of a little in Apex, which I like if you have good movement and you can dodge people. But like if you're taking like two really good players 1-on-1, if one guy finds a peacekeeper and you're in Skulltown and you have like an R99, you can kill him, but if he lands 2 shots on you, you're probably just dead. So that doesn't feel good. I do think some things do need to be super adjusted, especially the Peacekeeper. I'm a freaking Peacekeeper hater.
Well, what's so funny is like Peacekeeper has like hit like that. This is my biggest issue with the game right now, with Apex, and I love the game. Like I'm having fun with the game. I've been playing this game pretty much. I need to start playing Realm because I need to finish my battle pass, but I've been playing Apex a lot.
You better hurry because the Apex Battle Pass is almost out.
Okay. So
just saying.
Yeah. So like the one thing that bugs me is I like the fact that in Apex that you can find loot easily. And I tweeted out that like this is my opinion. As much as I hate the RNG of armor pots and runes in Realm, I really think they need to adapt this idea of like I love battery cells and health packs and med kits and Phoenix kits. I love how much healing there is in this game. It promotes fast play. It makes, games mid to late game fights extend a little bit longer, which I like. I think the TTK in both games is similar. I honestly think it's very close to each other in the current state of both games. I think if Realm added more armor pots, that it'd be a little bit higher than Apex. So, but anyway, like that's kind of a moot point. But the whole idea of like dropping and finding loot, it's not hard. Although sometimes I do find myself struggling to find a weapon at the start, depending on where you drop.
Yeah. So actually, Slick in chat brought up a great point that I forgot because it's been so freaking long. That was the nice thing. That's one thing I absolutely loved about Realm was they actually made it. I'm cool with the idea of like some people in PUBG, for example, used to talk about set weapon spawns in the game. Like every like gun spawns in a particular location and you can memorize those paths. And I don't quite like that. I think it takes away from like the whole kind of BR feel.
Yeah.
But I think Realm did it perfectly in the beginning. They had different types of chests and each one had a set spawn. Obviously what you got out of it was RNG, but that's fine. But I liked one thing that was great from a professional standpoint when the tournaments came about was the first thing you saw every team doing was mapping out looting routes, because you could do that effectively because there are so many loot spawns that are guaranteed to be a weapon or guaranteed to be potions or like a high value weapon chest. And that's one thing I think Realm did really well. It was the only BR still to date with that system that I've seen that mitigated early game RNG pretty heavily. Obviously, what you got out of your chest was what you got out of it. So, maybe you got the shaft on that part. But the fact that you could plan your early game drops is great. And Apex is good in the sense that it, again, what Slick said, it took that idea of having set loot spawns. All those capsules that you see around the map in Apex are always there.
Yeah.
They're not RNG, whether or not they spawn. Obviously, what's in them is, but that's such a great idea. It's a good way of keeping the BR feel of it, like where you have to constantly, because BRs feel good because you have to make the most out of whatever situation you're given present, and that situation is almost never the same.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot of the appeal to battle royales, and I like that. That's why I don't want set weapon spawns. I like to kind of, as much as obviously I'm eventually going to get to an end game loadout of like Wingman Peacekeeper, I'd like to keep it that kind of like you have to make the best out of your situation. And I think Realm did it great at first, but
yeah,
now it's where it is.
Yeah, and they have come out, and they are going to adjust that a little bit, where they have talked about making sure that there's a chest in every single house. So they have come out and said that they're going to do that. So I know that they're working on that solution, which I think is a good addition to this, where it's like, if you know that you drop on a house, you're going to get something. Like, you're not going to run around to 3 houses and then die because you don't have a weapon. You know what I mean? So, like, there's an element there where it's like, they're working on that. And I think that I agree with you in that it's nice to know that you can get loot when you drop somewhere. Like, that's what we're hitting on. And we talked a lot about RNG, and I think RNG is kind of like, developers need to like dance this fine line between it feels good to get a nice weapon, but it needs to be at a point in the game, timing wise, where it's fair. So you're not dropping and picking up a weapon that's overpowered in the beginning of the game, but that you're getting loot that is building a loadout, so there's a nice progression of loot, and you're excited to get what you're getting, at a certain point in the game, and then late game you're getting rewarded for your aggression, for getting kills, for looting other people, that kind of thing, which I think Apex does fairly well. I think the biggest issue, like you've said, is the early game.
Early game needs a little bit of adjustment, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, the game, I'm happy to see that it didn't. So I also jumped on Blackout as soon as it came out too. With Blackout, as much as I liked it, it did have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Effectively, that it didn't really learn from. I doubt they paid much attention to Realm at all, but they, which is why I think Apex is successful. But we can get at that to another point. They learned from literally every other BR.
Yeah.
You can tell that they tried to not make the same mistakes other BRs did. But anyways, I'm a very aggressive player when it comes to just any kind of shooting games. I love to just hold W and see what happens. If I die, then I try to then I'll analyze and see think to myself, why did I die? What could I have done better? I like to play aggressive. The gunfights in battle royales are what makes me have fun in them.
Yeah.
Winning gunfights feels good. I don't really care about getting the win as much as I do just getting a really high kill game where I got a lot of practice and experience. And one thing that I absolutely do, like you said, that I love about Apex is it doesn't de-incentivize you to not go for fights. And that's something that Realm does currently. It used to not be like that.
Yeah.
Again, another reason, actually, Slig's also hitting on another good point. Like, the current meta for Apex is very similar to old Realm. It was basically, at least in pubs, it was basically frag out as much as you can. The more you frag, assuming you don't get third-partied, the more you frag, the better off you'll be in the end game, because you get all of their loot, you get all of their meds and armor repairs, everything. I'm never starved for med. If I have more than 6-7 kills, I am never starved for anything come late game.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a great, that's the mid to late game in Apex feels really good. It feels really good.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like surviving that early game scruff, assuming you drop hot. Now, if you don't drop hot, you can mitigate that yourself. But to me, that's boring.
Yeah. Now, okay, I like that point, and I'm on board with you on that for sure. And so I will say that. Hold on one second.
Fun.
Never mind. Okay, I think I'm good. I will say that one thing within Apex that I'm a little bit hesitant of, and I think that this is just because I'm not as good at that game as I am at Realm, is this, and I haven't put the time in. I haven't even, I don't know, maybe I have 20 hours. So, but I want to say that within Realm and within Apex, the skirmishing to me in these two games is widely different. One's obviously first-person shooter, one's third-person shooter. So they're very different in those regards. And but like the skirmishing in Realm Royale feels like it's a little bit more creative. Like you have more of a chance to like move around with the movement abilities, to like get out of the way of things, to retreat if you need to reposition. Versus maybe in Apex, maybe the character that is closer to that would be Wraith, would be the only option where it's like, oh crap, like I'm gonna pop, my what's her Q called?
I don't know what it's called. I always call it cloak though for some reason.
Yeah, like cloak, like you can cloak, like.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing a lot at your chat.
Oh. So, yeah, my like GPU fan is just wigging out right now. Hold on.
That's your computer fan? That sounds like a vacuum.
Yeah, dude. Hold on 1 second. I've been having issues, so I need to.
Oh, jeez.
If I turn on MSI Afterburner, then it'll like. There, I fixed it. Okay, I don't know like what the heck is going on here.
I thought that was a vacuum.
No, I'm sorry. That's my GPU fan. I've been having issues with it lately, and I was like, it started to freak out, and I'm like, oh crap, what is that? So I turned on. All right, I'm all set now. Okay. But anyway, so you like run into this issue that was distracting me too, so I wasn't making sense. But you run into this issue where it's like there's not like I would say Apex is very position heavy, and this is like just the nature of the game. Where if you come from CS:GO or something like that, like I think that you transition very well in the Apex versus somebody who's coming from an MMO or like World of Warcraft or League of Legends or something. They transition better into Realm because you still have to learn how to aim and shoot and do all that stuff. But Apex is so like hitboxes are very tight. Positioning is like you cannot be out of position. You cannot push a fight and like you cannot push a fight at a bad time and not be punished for it. So like obviously all the competitive gamers love this, especially if they come from a background of like CS:GO or something because of those reasons. So like I will say an element of Realm that I really like though is that sometimes the fights are a little bit more creative where it's like you can escape, you can get out of things, you can like bamboozle, okay? Like your way in these fights to like, okay, I made a mistake, but I still have like a get out of free card a little bit, which maybe people don't like, but I personally I do enjoy that aspect. Like what do you think about that?
So
is that fair to say that?
I can see your point, but I personally would probably have to disagree and argue for the other side. And the reason why is, I mean, yes, you can be creative. For example, you could be an assassin with SOAR, for example, or anyone with SOAR, or like you can do a lot of creative getaways in Realm because of the movement abilities and the spells. And I do agree that people with more of an ability-based background, like with like playing either MOBAs or like MMOs, and I've seen this through playing out with like a ton of people. The people that have always used their abilities smarter and more creatively were always the ones that played like more class-based games in the past versus the guys that just played CS and gunned everybody down.
Yeah.
But so I think there's a Realm like had like it was really cool to see like the backgrounds of like players. Like one of the guys I had teamed with for one of the 10Ks Collision was a straight CS gamer, and this dude would gun anyone down, snipes on point, doesn't miss. But he didn't use his abilities as properly as like someone else that played a ton of MOBAs or MMOs. So it was really cool to see those two like characteristics come into play with Realm. You can be creative with it, but I don't know if I'm looking at it from like the top end gameplay.
Yeah.
If you are in a bad position, you're not going to get away in Realm, and a lot of that is I actually think the reason I prefer first person shooters is because you can push more creatively than you can third person. Because third person you get tagged by something, you just hide, but you're safe and cover to heal while watching the whole play out in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's incredibly hard to push in Realm, especially with current Realm. In old Realm, you could have, because everybody had armor. You were more mobile in old Realm. At least this is coming from an assassin player where you could self-conk and blink and all that good stuff. So you could definitely do some insanely creative pushes in old Realm. Current Realm is very much at higher level play, at least like in scrims. You're not doing a lot of pushing. It's very, very difficult to. You're actually, even if you tag somebody with a sniper, if you start pushing, you are actually, even if they have that health missing, you are in the weak part. Like you risk dying a lot more than they do, if that makes any sense. Like you're in like the weaker position if you're the one that's pushing, because they see you coming. They can make like any play that they want to counterplay that. The reason I like first person shooters, I've always liked first person shooters more, is because that doesn't exist. If you get tagged by like a longbow or something, or someone lights you up with a wingman, if you hide to heal, you're probably dead.
Yeah.
Straight up. One thing that I try to tell newer players to do, like you have to almost like jiggle peek like while healing and like looking out to like gather information. You need to know where the enemy is, because it's one thing I like about Apex is with the parkour and all the running and like how mobile you can be, the climbing and all that stuff. You can push from just about anywhere, and that's what I like about it. Like you can outplay the hell out of almost anyone if you know how to push right. And that's because you don't have that information given to you while you're healing and stuff like that and taking cover. You know, you are actually incentivized to push in that game.
Yeah.
It's actually why I like PUBG as well. I just like first person shooters better. To be honest, I'm more biased towards them, and that's one of the reasons why, especially when it comes to Battle Royale, is I like being the aggressor and being relatively rewarded for it rather than being in a disadvantageous position, even though I got a shot on someone.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I would flip that and be like, I think you can push a lot creatively in Apex, a lot more creatively. And I like if someone takes damage that they're actually the ones that are on the back foot, not actually have the advantage. But I don't know if you have any differing opinions on that, but that's just my experience with both of the games.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it just depends on, like, obviously you're coming from a higher end, perspective in Apex that I am. I mean, I'm honestly not good at the game. Like I have wins, but I'm not good. I'm sorry, guys, about the weird fan noise. Like, my graphics card has a mind of its own right now.
I just hope that like your computer doesn't blow up, dude.
It, honestly, what's crazy is my GPU is at 30 degrees right now. Like, I don't know why the fan is freaking out. I think I need to send it in because it's at 30 degrees right now. Like, it's not hot. Like, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, so we'll just have to like persevere through this. But anyway. So I think you're coming from a perspective that's like you're a very like good Apex player, and you come from a high end gaming. You a lot of the games, even with Realm, you played at a very high level. So like for me as like a intermediate to like maybe slightly above average player for Realm, and then obviously like a newer player in Apex. Like those are just my initial perspectives. I think, though, that people do want something to grind towards, and I think that we're kind of getting into this esports element a little bit, where this is where the conversation seems to be going, is this idea of, like, is there hope for esports, in both these games? Like, you obviously stated your position earlier in the game that you don't think Realm is doing that, and you think that their perspective is this advantageous, like, business mind of, like, we want to appeal to new players. I don't know if I agree with that. I think you could be right. Like, obviously, this is all speculative because we don't know the mind of Hi-Rez. But, like, I think you could be right. But I also kind of, like, don't think that could be right. And the reason that I'm, like, super, like, leery of, like, jumping in on that is because of the fact that Paladins and Smite both have an esports league. They have pros in those games, and they're not even the most popular game that Hi-Rez has right now. So
that is the one thing. Yeah, no, I will. That is the one kind of like shining light. I agree with you on that. Is Hi-Rez does put money into their esports. So like I said, I'm sure there will be at least one more tournament. And then I don't know. I have a pit in my stomach where I'm thinking that I feel like they'll probably determine if they want to keep doing more based on how well that does. I don't know, maybe in terms of viewership or game growth or both. I do believe they'll do one more. But a lot of it, I think, is also going to come down to, does it feel good to play like competitively? Like, honestly, like if they announce tournaments, I thought about, playing it again because, I mean, like, why not, right? Like, I already have all the, I've already played Realm a lot. Why not playing it again? But I probably won't, because playing even like assuming the tournaments are going to be on the current Realm that is right now. I don't know. From when we played scrims, obviously, I mean, if you're good, if your team is good and plays a lot, obviously the more you play, the more it increases your chances of winning. But there is such a big element to even like just so many elements of RNG within the game where you could be the best team, but you might not even win. And even Old Realm was kind of like that a little bit, but it's still not anywhere near as much now. You could still be the best team and not win. And that's kind of like, I'm like, do I want to stick time into practicing Realm for that reason, or do I just kind of like want to go elsewhere? I mean, I love Realm, but it's been a bit of a love-hate relationship. So maybe part of that is just me being kind of like getting over it and maybe being done with it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think they'll do it. I think they will do at least one more tournament.
Yeah. And we'll just kind of have to see. I will say this: I've been critical of BR esports since the beginning, anyway. Like, I think BR esports is kind of like BS. All right. Yep. See what I did there? Okay. Anyway, yeah. Okay. So, sorry, that was dumb. Like, the reason that I'm hesitant on BR esports is because it's boring to watch. Whereas I think Realm Royale is very fun to watch. I have enjoyed watching competitive Apex. I've watched some of your VODs. I've watched some of the scrims. I've watched the Apex League that, started. So I've watched some of it, but like, I feel like there's an element in BRs where it's just like, let's camp because it's advantageous to camp, and that's boring to watch. Whereas the one Realm Royale tournament that I did watch, and this was back when they had 3 abilities, was very exciting to watch. Like,
yeah, it was a lot of fun to play in as well.
It was like, so that's why I have high hopes for this game, at least for Realm Royale as an esports scene and as a competitive scene, is because they've done a really good job of like the spectating, like casting, all that stuff. They've done a fairly decent job at. I think they can improve some still, but at the same time, I think it's a fun game to watch with a lot of the creative play, similar to MOBAs, similar to League of Legends, with the outplay potential with abilities. I still think there's room for Apex to do well.
It's going to be up in the air. A lot of whether or not. No, I agree with you on a lot of these. I remember when the first PUBG, because PUBG was like the first like big battle royale. I remember when the first tournament was coming out, I was so excited to watch it, and I was like, dog, I can't even make it halfway through this game. This shit's so boring.
Yeah.
Sorry for the language, but
no, you're fine. Be you, dude. We're like, you're good.
But no, and a lot of it rides on, is the spectator client good? Number one, like, do you have the tools in place to make the game inherently fun to watch from whoever's watching it?
Yeah.
Are the casters, obviously then the casters and the cameraman, whether or not they're good at catching all the action as well. But actually, one thing I've always thought was really was such a good idea, more like a big idea of why whether or not an esports or a BR esport like makes sense, or what's missing from it actually is something that Dr. Disrespect, regardless of what your opinions are of him, he went on the H3 podcast and actually said this really well. He thinks that competitive BR esports, from a spectator standpoint, is hard for some people to buy in if you don't have a good spectator client, mainly because people like BRs, like watching BR streams and playing BRs, because there's a narrative behind every game.
Yeah.
You like, say, you're watching Shroud, for example. Obviously, if you're a big fan of Shroud, watching him like overcome like a crazy early game, like maybe like doesn't have like a lot of armor or meds or ammo, whatever, some kind of difficulty. Every game has its own narrative that plays out from start to finish, and people like to see that through.
Yeah.
It's hard to follow that when there's, we'll use Apex numbers, 60 people in a game. It's hard for any of the casters to keep a narrative on anyone.
Exactly.
You'll just be bouncing back and forth from fight to fight. And it kind of loses that emotional investment, unless like maybe there's a lot of players that you really like in there and you want to see how they do. But from like just an everyday person, like, that team just won that fight, that was cool, but it doesn't really mean anything for the spectator in the long run, because who knows, they might just die off camera anyway.
There's no rivalry, right? Like, yeah. I mean, sort of. And I said this in the first episode we did was on esports and the esports potential of Realm Royale. And I threw out an idea that people kind of scoffed at, but I still kind of come back to, because I think there's some points here. I think as a game side, it's not fun to play, but I think as an esports side, it's fun. Is this idea of having BRs be smaller, where it's not as fun and it doesn't feel as epic, but at least you can tell a story if you have less teams involved. And that's why, like, I struggle with this. This is why I struggle with BR esports, is because there's this element of, how do you tell the story of, like, I'm going to throw some things out there, of Fnatic versus G2, of TSM versus Cloud9, when you've got 15 teams to give a narrative on. Like, you can't, right. Realistically, it's impossible to share a narrative.
One thing I'd like to see, and I don't know how feasible this is, it will probably be really difficult to actually, like, from logistically to set up, is one. I love the way Dota did tournaments. I used to play a lot of Dota.
Yeah.
Where they had an amazing in-game client where if you first off you could buy tickets to tournaments in game, so you could spectate rather than watching streams. You can watch the game in game from however you want. Like you don't have to follow the casters. You can follow the casters in game. They have like camera options, and I think no game is done as well as Dota does. You can watch the game however you want, or you can have someone autopilot for you and just do it as well. And I think that's if that was functionality was available somehow in a VR. Again, I don't know logistically if that's possible. I think it could change the game when it comes to competitive VR esports. Any player, because imagine like a tournament's Twitch Rivals tournament. Say, let's imagine that it's a custom game. All the teams are in one lobby. It's no pubs. Imagine having a ticket to that game, walking or joining the game and spectating from anybody's perspective. Obviously on a delay and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But being able to spectate from anyone's perspective, following one team around or a couple teams around would be like, it would literally, I think it would probably become the most popular esport right then, just from that kind of thing. But I don't know how, like logistically, how that works with servers and all that stuff. I think that no game has done it as well as Dota does. I wish to see that more in games, because sometimes it can be frustrating if it's just one stream and the tournament is not allowing individual players to stream it as well. That's kind of annoying. I prefer to watch individual players, to be honest. I'd rather watch individual teams play than watch casters who or cameramen that miss half the action, which is not their fault. It's hard to follow. It's not an easy job.
Exactly.
So I would love to see that, but again, I don't know logistically how that makes sense. And on your point with less like players, I kind of agree with that. I don't see, like, I remember seeing when Apex first came out and a lot of people were asking questions. They're like, oh, it's only 60 people. I'm like, I don't really see that. Like, I don't buy into that hype of, this game is cool because it has 100 people. To me, that only spells server issues. That's all. To me.
Yeah,
like,
which
lots of server
we
issues.
don't need, listen. We don't need more server issues in Apex right now. Okay,
no, we don't.
Like, anyway,
so,
and that's on a totally different scale. But whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I like the idea of big games. I don't see why it has to be this arbitrary value of 100, because a lot of people try to shoot for that. It doesn't need to be that big.
No,
I was fine with Realm having 50 to 60 people in like solos for a while. Like, I'm cool with that as long as like a grander scale. But like,
yeah,
I don't think it has to be that big.
That's why
I'm fine. I think 60. I think 60 feels good. I would be all right with a couple of circle adjustments in Apex to make it feel a little bit better.
Yeah. And again, like, who knows how this is going to develop. I think it would be interesting to see some new game modes to explore in a VR that limit players for an esport. Like, specifically, if developers wanted to target esports within their game to develop, to release and tinker and to play with different game modes that it's like, okay, so like this game mode, we only have 5 teams of 4 or something. Like, can we still make this feel epic? You know, and can you still get the same thing, but now we can tell the narrative of that? Does it have to be deathmatch? I don't know. Like, you know, I'm just throwing ideas out there of this element of how do you turn this into you know, still keep the BR feel, still keep it feel somewhat epic, but you can actually tell a story and you can showcase individual skill. Because I think that's also an issue. You know, I like pub stomps right now in Apex because it's fun to watch from one perspective. Like, it's fun to watch. It's cool. It's an interesting thing. I don't think it's fair. Like, I don't think it's an actual fair measure of skill, but it's fun to watch at least. You know,
it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, the idea of having a tournament revolving around who can kill most little Timmies in a certain amount of time is a little silly from a competitive standpoint. I will agree with you that I would rather participate in tournaments that are custom lobbies, obviously, where you're only playing against other competitors. But I think from a spectator standpoint, with everybody streaming a kill, like a frag tournament, I think it's a lot easier to get on board with, at least early on. This Apex's esports is going to live and die by whether or not they get customs good fast enough, and whether or not they feel good and they're not like insanely buggy or desyncy or just bad servers. There's a lot of drive. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've seen it all over Twitter. Org after org is looking for Apex teams and creators. But I don't know. Maybe they know information that we don't, which they probably do. I'm sure they have ins with the developers.
Yeah, they do.
But a lot of them are kind of going out on a limb. Like, no orgs are signing like really good players because there's nothing to show for. It's just scrim lobbies which are still like, they're pretty competitive lobbies still. It's really great practice, but it's not a complete showcase of talent. it's not a whole. It doesn't paint a whole picture.
Yeah.
You can show you good players, but it won't give you the whole picture on how they actually are in like a custom server setting. So Apex is going to live and die by will it get custom servers fast enough? I think a lot of people are hoping for the first big update to include custom servers that's coming. And will the spectator client be very friendly and easy to use for tournaments?
Yeah.
For at least for those that the tools are available to. It's going to come down to that. I think Realm Spectator was decent. I mean, the implementation and the foundation of it was decent, but like the actual, like it was super buggy even in the tournaments. Go figure. But I thought they did an all right job, all things considered, with how rough the game was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's my point on the esports side of things. Obviously, I hope Apex as well.
Yeah. I mean, you're all in on it, so like,
yeah,
and I think that anyone that's like worth, like their salt as a human being, will want people to succeed at what they're doing, and I'm all for like people chasing dreams. Like I'm all for that. I'm just a skeptic by nature,
mm-hmm.
And so like I am skeptical of. I'm skeptical of Apex Esports, simply A, because it's a BR, but B, because there's a lot of hype around it. I want to see it mature. And like, do I want to see it succeed? Yes, because it's a fun game to play. I'm interested in this game. And it has a lot of success already. I think that's why orgs are doing what they're doing. I think they're like, wow, this game is blowing up. Like, let's get in front of this. Let's try and let's take this slow. We'll bring on people that have, I'm curious how they're approaching who they sign. I'm curious if it's like, they're signing people that are popular streamers, content creators, right?
Yeah.
Like that have a big reach, say they're good at the game. I mean, Dizzy got signed and he was a nobody. So maybe there's an element here, but I don't know if Dizzy's an exception. I don't know.
So right now, no one is signing just a top tier player on a whim.
Yeah.
Everybody, the only people that are getting signed are people that already have clout. They're already well known, either through content creation or they're just pros from other games, or have like a big following on stream. Dizzy was a nobody for the most. I mean, people knew him in the background. Like he played a lot of CS with Summit, stuff like that. Like he had a background in competitive gaming, but Dizzy got signed. He didn't get signed when no one knew about him. He got signed after he made King Richard's Twitch Rivals team. King Richard plays for NRG, so he had an in right there, and he is absolutely nutty at the game, and his stream also blew up. So they threw him a contract real fast, and they were smart to do so. So he didn't necessarily get signed when he was a nobody. He got signed when he started to blow up because NRG sees a lot of potential in him, and they were right to do so.
Yeah.
He's now, every time he went from like 30 viewers like 3 weeks ago,
exactly,
to 30,000, and that's not even like that's lowballing the view count sometimes.
Yeah, and he has like not like 8,000 subs, 8,500 subs or something.
He passed 10,000 a couple.
Oh, did he? Oh man. Now, like,
which is great for him. He deserves it. I don't know. He released one of those like Twit longer posts where he's had some pretty like rough times and he almost had to like give up gaming, but and he's really good. He's a nice guy too. He definitely deserves it. I definitely hope NRG gave him a good contract, but even then he's still set.
Yeah. So I mean, I cheer for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I champion that for sure. I just am a skeptic when it comes to esports in general. Like, I think League of Legends is the leading esports game right now. Dota probably close second. And then, or actually maybe CSGO is number one. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure how they do that.
Well, in terms of esports, I'd say probably number one's Fortnite right now. I mean,
you think so?
I mean, I know League Worlds is big, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about League. I tried it when it first years ago, and I just didn't like it, so I never really kept up with it. So I don't know League Worlds viewership. The only time Dota's numbers are insanely high is the international, and that comes once a year, every summer.
Yeah.
And those do boast the biggest prize pools in gaming, which is cool. But, I am skeptical about VR esports because like everybody just wants to be the next esport now, and it does get kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Which I think it turns a lot of people off. But no, I mean VR esports are possible. PUBG actually has a really thriving scene. It's crazy. Like we don't hear much about PUBG anymore, but
it's huge in China.
It's the number one most played game on Steam, and that's without Chinese numbers because I don't think Chinese numbers are on Steam.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're probably right.
Most played game on Steam. It's still a really big game. It has a really big competitive scene to it, and it works. Lots of money is in it. Fortnite also. I mean that one just goes without saying. Also has a massive esports scene. So VR esports can work. They just need to be implemented right.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Well, the big news with League of Legends was franchising. And like this is why League of Legends took off with their esports scene, is because they implemented franchising within the last couple of years. So a lot of the organizations that were just simple, like, like smaller, they were like small esports. It wasn't seen as a thing. All of a sudden it blew up and started getting traction on ESPN, and then all these NBA teams started investing. And then they franchised. Right. So European LCS as well as NA LCS is now franchised. So, they have the Golden State Warriors, they have the Houston Rockets, they have the Milwaukee Bucks, they have like all these like huge organizations. I think TSM and C9 were the only ones that were able to like, they still have investors, but it's not like, they weren't like, they weren't sold entirely off, or at least in parts, to like larger NBA orgs. I think some of their other investors are like a little bit hush.
One of the teams I keep trying to like, that I know someone, one of the esports organizations, they're not as well known. They have a great PUBG team, those Pittsburgh Knights, and they're owned by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Are they? I didn't know that. Okay, interesting.
So they I mean, a lot of these sports teams are franchising esports teams as well. Kind of on the down low. Yeah, a lot of people don't know stuff like that. Like I didn't know the Houston Rockets had a team until the other day.
Yeah,
and that's cool to see. I just hope for their sake their investments are worth it enough to keep it going. And that's obviously going to come down to the games also being good enough and profitable enough. So,
yeah, I mean, hopefully it continues to grow, and I guess we'll just kind of have to see how it develops. I want it to continue to take off, and I don't know, we'll just have to kind of see where it goes from here. So, but
I mean, obviously, I'm hoping it does well.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people in the chat are too.
Yeah, no, absolutely, a ton of people are, and so I really do like champion those guys that are chasing dreams right now, that, like, I think it's awesome. Like, continue to chase your dreams.
I hope it does well with Realm too. Like, even though I play Apex like basically full time now, I still like Realm. I don't want to see Realm die. Like, I feel like I would be sad if I knew like Realm died, which is obviously it's not. It's growing. And
no, it is.
I think the game's appealed to two very large different crowds. I think Realm has a theoretical higher potential, like on paper. I think Realm just like its formula, its aesthetic, I think just looks more appealing to more people, right?
Yeah.
Like Realm's the kind of game that can bring people in that don't play video games at all and suck them in. Apex is kind of that video game that's like that already exists for people that already play video games. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I don't see Apex bringing in a whole lot of new gamers, like brand new to console or PC gaming. But Realm has that potential to do that. So I don't think Realm's going anywhere. I think Realm's going to survive for a long time, and I hope it does.
Yeah. I mean, I was encouraged to see, and this is the thing, I haven't played in a couple weeks, but I was encouraged to see that Realm still had 6K on Steam, even with Apex's release. They hit the 10K mark like 2 weeks ago on a weekend. And so, like, I hope that number continues to rise. I think if they do reintroduce tournaments, I think it'd be good. I think it would be better if someone just did a community league. If they had custom servers, like, let's say Hi-Rez is goofy. Like, they're goofy enough to try wild things, which we know they do. And some of that has hurt their game. But if they actually listen to the community and they're like, let's make a huge push to... I don't even care about the bugs at this point. If they made a huge push to get custom servers and to do some sort of esport, like, support community run league, something. If they did something with that, they would be a first ever BR. Or even if they did an ELO system, dude. If they did an MMR and some sort of wild ELO system, which we talked about last podcast a little bit, that made sense for a BR. Okay, like don't think League of Legends or Dota or whatever, but think like something that makes sense for a BR. If they did that, I feel like they would be the first to ever do that, or if maybe Apex beats them to it. But if they were smart right now, with Apex being huge as it is, I feel like if they make a risk like that, it's only a win-win for them, dude. Like, it's really only a win-win for them. They might as well take a risk for that, in my opinion. So,
right, no, I think Realm has great potential to still do great things.
Yeah,
I just think after reading, basically being part of every single patch they've done. And kind of trying to read between the lines, for me, the creative direction is just not the way I want to go with it. I still think Realm's a fun game. I really do. I think it's a lot more tolerable now than it was a couple months ago.
Like, let me break this down for you, okay? And this is a point I was going to make earlier, is you prefer Dota over League of Legends, right? And you said you've never played
Yes.
League of Legends, right?
League was the first one I played, and any of the MOBAs, and I only played like an hour of it, and for some reason it just didn't vibe with me.
Did you play Heroes of New Earth?
I did. I went to Heroes New Earth.
Did you? Okay, I played Heroes of New Earth first for like a day, and I was like, "This is toxic. I'm getting out of this." And then I tried out League, and League like was a little bit friendlier. But anyway, so you prefer Dota over League, and you prefer Apex over Realm. Like the stark contrast in this is that like Hodsic. Okay, like I'm not trying to stereotype you here, but if it seems like you prefer like a more complex, more layers to a game, like that just by nature. Okay, and this is super subjective. And again, this goes back to the point that we talked about earlier. You don't have to choose. Like you can like both,
right?
But there's going to be preferences on either side of this. Versus a person that prefers a simpler style game that focuses more on macro play, I guess, like that emphasizes macro play more. You know, not to say Apex and Dota don't have macro play, because they absolutely do. They have deep strategy, but the fine mechanics of the game are more intricate than what you would find in Realm or in League of Legends. Whereas Realm and League of Legends are more based on like what I talked about before, is this idea of like skirmishing and outplay and creative play versus like a CS:GO or an Apex or a Dota, where it's like very fine mechanical skill are very well showcased. Like, so, and not to say that fine mechanics aren't showcased in the other games. It's just it has a narrow gap between the highest mechanical player and maybe somebody that's a little bit less.
No, I mean you've hit it pretty much spot on. I just enjoy the games that make me feel personally challenged in every single game.
Yes,
and games where I feel like I can almost always grow.
Yes,
like as a player and maybe as a person, but no, and that's not to say that I couldn't do that in League or Realm. I definitely there are times in Realm, even the last like month or so when I played it, where I still felt outplayed by some people that I went up against, and I felt like I could definitely grow.
Yeah,
I still feel that way, but the amount of especially you feel this obviously a lot in a new game, but Dota has like literally there's almost no roof to how high you can go in Dota in terms of growth and player skill. And I think that really says something where all of their major tournaments, the biggest one, like I was saying, the international, I don't think has ever been won by one team twice.
Yeah.
It's always a new team. And this last year,
not even Koreans. Do Koreans play Dota?
Dude, not really.
That's interesting.
The Chinese are the big bad boys in the East for Dota. And it flops. Like 1 year, I think it almost, I don't know the exact pattern, but 1 year it's like the US will win, 1 year China will win, and then 1 year like an EU team will win. It's very like up in arms on who's going to win every single international. Like for example, the last one, a team that basically formed 3 months before the big tournament, and they won all through open qualifiers, and they were the 16th seeded team, which was last place. They went and won the entire thing.
Yeah,
like it's literally up in arms, man.
See the thing.
So I like the games. So like I like games like that. Not necessarily where like you never know who's going to win. More so where there's where there's almost an infinite roof. Not saying Apex has that. That's one reason I gravitated toward Dota is I liked it a lot. I like the art style too. That really caught my eye.
Yeah.
But I like games where I feel like no matter where I am, I can always improve, and I can always strive to get better in something.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel that in Apex. Definitely felt that in like Dota and most of the games I like to play. So that's just a personal preference. Obviously everyone's different. But that kind of tends to be where I lean on those things most of the time. Yeah.
So, and that's a fair assessment of the two games, I think, you know, just from my opinion. And like, again, you don't have to choose, choose, you know, they're just very different. They scratch different itches. They're both very good games, you know? So I don't know. I'm enjoying Apex right now, and I'm enjoying playing it, and I'm still going to play a lot of Realm, and I still have been playing a decent amount of Realm. You know, so like I think they just do different things and they reach different things. I don't think Apex is going to steal as much from Realm Royale and Fortnite as it is going to just steal from PUBG and Blackout. Like that's just an opinion for me. Like just
on surface level, like from outside looking in, if you haven't played the game, it's Realm. Like I said, I don't think Apex will kill Realm. Because it's just Realm appeals to a very different player base. Like I said, Realm has the potential to appeal to almost everybody. Now whether or not it does, that'll be up to the game.
Yeah.
But Apex appeals to basically already like first person shooter lovers. I think most casual players, which obviously make up the majority of the gamer population, I think most of them like third person shooters, which is the one reason why Fortnite is really popular. Like it's a lot easier to kind of it's a little bit easier to play, but it's a lot safer for them too, because in first person shooters it can be, if you're not like very like spatially aware, if you don't play them that much, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of times you probably die and you have no idea why, and then it'll frustrate most people.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's fine. So I think Realm definitely has such a big potential to grow.
Well,
I'm personally surprised that Apex is as popular as it is, but I think it's a lot because of what we talked about earlier.
Well, what's funny about it is that I've seen a lot of success from people who have played Realm or who used to play Realm at a competitive level that transitioned over Apex, like yourself, Mopork, Monsoon, some of these other players that participated in some of, in the Realm Royale tournaments and at a high level, that transitioned over to Apex and are finding a lot of success, because if you're good at gaming, you're good at gaming. So there's this element of like, you can try and decrease the skill gap to a certain extent. But the reason that some of these guys are good at gaming is because they're innovative, because they transition, they adjust very well, they make good decisions, they have good game awareness. So they have all the things that make a good gamer. They're going to find success where they go, Mm-hmm. So whether that's Apex or whether that's Realm or whatever, like they're going to find that success. So, I don't know if that's any like, if that gives anybody any peace about Realm Royale or Apex or whatever, but that's just a valid point, that it's like, if you're a good gamer, you're going to be good if you invest yourself into a game. So
absolutely, the biggest part of growth is just it's the reason I play aggressive in all battle royales. I'd rather lose as many fights as possible so I can learn how to not lose them. Which is advice I give people to anybody that asks, like, any tips for a new player in a battle royale. In any of them, like Realm included, like drop as hot as you can. Press W, and if you die, if you want to get better, if you care about like becoming better at the game, you just have to objectively look at yourself and see what you could have done better, what you did wrong, all sorts of things. And that's Realm still has that kind of feel where like you feel like you can get, it feels less so than it used to be, but you still feel like you can always get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't really have anything else to talk about. I feel like we've addressed all the things. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about before we call it for the night, dude?
That's basically it. Like I said, I'd just like to let people know that, because there are some people that come into my chat or ask like, hey, are you ever gonna play Realm again? Short answer, in the future, or in the near future, probably not. I still, but that doesn't mean I dislike the game. I still really like Realm. I hope Realm does very well in its own right. Apex is just something more along the lines of what I've been looking for. Like I was saying through all of the podcasts, I like first-person shooters. They're my bread and butter. They just vibe more with me. So, but at the end of the day, you can play both games. They're both free.
You can.
They're both available to you.
Yeah.
And I'd just encourage people to just try everything. Don't form your own opinion. I don't know. I just liked when Apex came out and people were stubborn to try it from the Realm community just because there's a lot of hype around it, or because a lot of the Realm community is leaving to play it. That doesn't mean you can't play it too. Just give it a shot. It's free. You literally have nothing to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. But, except your life. Yeah,
exactly. And your money, because opening packs is an addiction.
Yeah, because you have to get that. It's not called a knife. Wraith whatever thing.
No, yeah, people call it the knife.
Is it the knife? Okay, because you have to get that knife, because that makes you good. So, listen, absolutely. You guys can't hear my GPU if my cat meows loud enough. Thank you, the kunai. The kunai, that's what it is. Yeah. So, all right, dude. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on the show and making time for this. And
absolutely, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, dude. I enjoy this. I enjoy getting together and talking with people just about gaming, and that's really what the podcast is about. It's called the Realm Roundtable, but we talk a lot about BRs and definitely talk about just gaming in general and esports and all that stuff. So, I hope to see you around, and I do believe someday you will play Realm again. You can't break up the mouse Hodsic duo, dude. You can't do it.
Realm is that. It's that abusive relationship that I just can't seem to get out of. That's what I tell everybody, honestly. Listen,
let's be real here, okay? Realm was going to be here, and people have been calling it dead game forever. It's not dead, and it's not going to die. The only people that will kill Realm is high res, okay? And to be fair, the only people
There's a pretty good chance of that.
and to be
There
fair,
really is.
the only people that are going to kill Apex is EA. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
I mean, I hope both games do well in their own right.
yeah. What is it like?
I mean, I do have to say, like, Realm has, in a sense, changed my life.
Yeah.
I've some of my closest friends now I've met through Realm. Like, I've been looking at the chat the entire time, and I see so many good friends that I met from Realm that I never would have otherwise. It blew up my stream, relatively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I think I only had like 200 followers going in, and like 5 viewers on average going into Realm. So the Realm has changed my life drastically.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do. Part of me would be sad to see it completely go away. Like I said, I'll still be playing the big patches here and there, seeing how I feel about it. But for now, I do have a full-time focus on Apex and trying to see what I can hopefully make out of that. Because at the end of the day, I'm craving the biggest competition out there.
Yeah.
I hope I can get it.
Hey man, and there's no shame in that. You know, I'm like, a part of me is the same way. I'm a competitive person, so it's like I want to play a game that I know is going to offer competitive opportunities. Not because I think I'm good at the game. I'm not. I'm trash. But at least like knowing that I'm investing my time into something that if someday I do get good enough, that I will have opportunities to compete in something.
Yeah.
You know.
And that does pave the way, assuming they choose to go with esports and Realm. That does pave the way for all these newer players, because
yes,
I can tell you right now, even if the tournaments come back, I already know of a lot of people that played Realm and were scrimming that aren't coming back, regardless of if the tournament's coming back or not. So that paves the way for new players.
And this was something that I said when Apex first came out, was the smartest thing for Realm Royale to do right now is to push to release a tournament, because they're literally losing this portion of their players that they will not get back unless they do something quickly. And
I mean, you see how Fortnite's scrambling to keep everybody.
Yes. So
they're doing so many things.
Yeah. So there's this element of like, I mean, you could be potentially right where they're just like, maybe, hey, we give you here, Apex, you guys can have this. We're going to focus on this community in our game because that's where the success is. I don't know. Right. I hope that's not the case, dude, because I do miss scrims. Like
they were fun.
I was getting ready to like hop into those. You know, I played like one scrim night with my duo partner, and
they were fun.
It was so fun. Like, and so there's elements there where it's like, I hope that comes back, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and again, I hope Apex continues to do well and the league does well, and, you know, they get all the things that they need to do too. So, whoops.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I hope that, you know, is sorted out, but I don't know. I just appreciate the discussion tonight, dude. It was good chatting with you.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah, man. So we'll have to play some games sometime. Yeah, I'm sad that he wasn't here and we couldn't do our intervention, man.
I messaged him too. I feel like he probably heard me and Apex, and he's like, nope.
He was like, oh, I'm out and about tonight. I'm like, come on, dude, we got this intervention for Hodsic. You got to be here.
I just want him to know that I feel like he thinks I hate Realm, but I don't.
Yeah, you're just invested right now, dude. I get it.
Right.
I get it, dude. I get it. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, thanks so much for hanging out and, you know, coming to the podcast and supporting the podcast. If you guys enjoyed the show, you can check us out on YouTube. We do have a YouTube where we upload all the VODs. We have 4 other shows where this is our first season, so we're going to try and do as many good content-centered episodes as we can. So definitely check that out. Give us a follow on YouTube. Hodsic, is there anywhere where you want to promote yourself? I know obviously you're on Twitch, Twitch TV/Hodsic. Anywhere else that you want to?
Basically my Twitter. I mean, I'm going to be doing YouTube uploads as well on the same name, but not crazy about it. That's more just going to be like Apex gameplay and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If they want to sub there, I know I haven't been pimping it out yet because it's not released I haven't put out enough stuff yet. But
yeah, is that just search Hodsic on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should find me.
All right, sweet.
But there's that as well. But yeah, that's about it. Twitch, Twitter, and hopefully YouTube.
Nice, man. All right. Well, hey, thanks everyone for coming out tonight, and we will catch you another time. See you guys later.